Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness director Scott Derrickson announced earlier this month that he was departing as director, citing the super clear, no follow-ups explanation of creative differences. As a huge fan of Derrickson's work, this was a bummer to hear, and as in past cases when Disney parted ways with directors like Edgar Wright and Lord & Miller, I wondered if this was just another case of studio interference with bold directors who don't want to play ball with the intertextuality of their precious cinematic universes. But as days passed, new details have emerged from the nooks and crannies of social media that are actually painting a clearer picture of what the second Doctor Strange movie plot was, what those creative differences could be, and what the movie might be going forward. Much of this information comes from the clues tucked in the outspoken Derrickson's Twitter history, so that gives us an excuse to do our best to explain the rejected plot of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in another New Rockstars Tweet Down. Okay, let's time stone the clock back to last summer, when Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was announced at Comic-Con. And Scott Derrickson described the project this way.
But when I came and talked to Kevin about doing a sequel, I said I don't want to do just another sequel to do a sequel. If I'm going to do it, it has to go into the territory that drew me into the Doctor Strange comics in the first place, which is how they dipped into the gothic and the horror and the horrific, and we're going to make the first scary MCU film.
Yes!
Rewatching this moment, it's fun to dive way too deep in the body language of these two men. The moment Derrickson says the word horror, Feige takes an uneasy step backward, which, might be nothing, but keep watching.
You had me at goth.
You know what? No, it's PG-13, you're gonna like it.
Huh, maybe I'm losing it, but have we just picked up on Feige's poker tell with that ear tug? And it's almost like Feige could not wait to backpedal on the dark horror promises of Derrickson. Derrickson, who before coming to the MCU made horror films like Sinister and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, with Feige reassuring everyone that this would still be a family-friendly MCU adventure that we're used to.
You're gonna like it.
Still, with a title like In the Multiverse of Madness, many of us speculated on the cosmic horror influences Derrickson could be drawing on, like H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, or John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. But then jumping ahead to September 10th, in which Derrickson tweeted, based on both my own experience and a recent conversation with 5 other tentpole directors, the most common challenge/difficulty for event movie filmmakers is getting unwanted major script changes late in pre-production. Now, we don't know exactly what Derrickson was referring to here. About a month later, it was reported that Marvel Studios hired Jade Halle Bartlett to write a draft of Multiverse of Madness. Bartlett wrote the latest draft of the horror film The Turning. Now, previously it was assumed that Derrickson's collaborator for the first Doctor Strange film, novelist and screenwriter C. Robert Cargill, would be returning to write the sequel script. But often with Marvel films, they'll bring in multiple screenwriters to do passes, like Thor Ragnarok had at least half a dozen screenwriters taking stabs at it throughout development. But then Derrickson posted more tweets that, now looking back, seem a little suspect. Like on December 16th, he tweeted, "Studio release dates are the enemy of art." Ooh. 2 days after that, he tweeted, "Most major life choices come with major regrets. It's unavoidable, but the worst choice is not choosing at all. Hell is sitting down at the crossroads." Hell, huh? Regrets, huh? Choices, huh? All these words could mean something. But all of this led to an interesting update from Kevin Feige on the Multiverse of Madness. But before I continue, this video is brought to you by Marvel Collect by Topps. Unlock a world where you can collect and trade Marvel characters. Bring your collection to life by earning rewards for completing sets. Trade in lower level or duplicate cards to receive more special limited ones and much more. New collectibles are released every day. Marvel Collect by Topps is available both in the iTunes App Store and Google Play Store worldwide and is free to download and free to play. December was Fan Appreciation Month, and to celebrate it, in-app Topps Digital gave away 1 free collectible every day of the month and 5 Fan Appreciation character cards located in the free section of the Pack Store. I collected all 5 of the Fan Appreciation cards, finally nabbing that Thor one to complete my set. By completing the sets, New Rockstars fans were entered for a chance to win $1,000 worth of Disney.com gift cards, $250 Midtown Comics digital gift card, and then 10,000 diamonds in the in-app currency. And the winner of the contest was AJ Brass, username AJIZ14. Congrats, AJ, and a big shout out to any viewers who participated. Now, the contest is over, but there are brand new cards as part of the new 2020 base series, allowing Marvel fans around the world to relive the nostalgia of card collecting and flipping them over to learn more about each character. Marvel Collect by Topps is still a blast to play. Just click on the link in the description to download the Marvel Collect app, register a username, and then collect the 5 fan appreciation cards located in the free section of the pack store. Be sure to follow @ToppsMarvel on Twitter and @ToppsDigital on Instagram. Download Marvel Collect by Topps digital trading card app to start collecting and trading your favorite characters with fans around the world. The app is free to play and new cards are released every day. Download now from the link below. Okay, back to Feige's Doctor Strange update. During a recent Q&A, Feige echoed that perceived uneasiness during Comic-Con about classifying Doctor Strange 2 as pure horror genre.
Multiverse of Madness is the greatest title we've ever come up with, by the way, which is one thing that's exciting about it. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's a horror film, but it is, as Scott Derrickson, our director, has pitched it. It'll be a big MCU film with scary sequences in it. The way, when I was a kid in the 80s, Spielberg did an amazing job. There are horrifying sequences in Raiders that I would say when I was a little kid and do this when their faces melted. Or Temple of Doom, of course, or Gremlins, or Poltergeist. These are the movies that invented the PG-13 rating, by the way. They were PG, and then they were like, we need another. But that's fun. It's fun to be scared in that way, and not a horrific, torturous way, but in a way that is legitimately scary, because Scott Derrickson's quite good at that, but scary in the service of an exhilarating emotion.
Feige makes an important distinction here. His favorite horror influences are the ones of Steven Spielberg's Amblin world, in which dark, horrifying supernatural events occur, but stories typically balance out at the end with a nice sweetness to them, an implication that there is a god and the world is a good place if you watch your step. Based on what I know about Scott Derrickson, his horror influences are more closely tied to John Carpenter, Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft. The world is a dark place in which sometimes inexplicably bad things happen to innocent people and there's no logic to it. Hell is real and we're living in it. Feige's words from that Q&A were followed by a few surprising announcements in early January of this year. One, that WandaVision, which was previously intended to tie into the Multiverse of Madness, was moved up from spring 2021 to sometime this year in 2020. Second announcement, the nearly scrapped X-Men horror spinoff, The New Mutants, would in fact be linked to the MCU. And 3, Derrickson's announcement that he's leaving Doctor Strange 2. And one interesting response to that was a tweet from filmmaker Issa Lopez the following day. She was brought up by a fan as a replacement director maybe, and Lopez said that she could never fill Derrickson's shoes, and she said that the last thing Marvel would want is a deranged Mexicana with a penchant for ghosts, which prevents opening in China, unconventional storytelling, and a political agenda. And Derrickson liked this tweet. Lopez is referring to how Hollywood studios these days are increasingly catering to the Chinese Film Board, which censors material to their audiences that may come off in their eyes as unflattering to the Chinese government, preventing some films from making hundreds of millions more from the lucrative Chinese market. Iron Man 3 aired a different cut of the movie that included Chinese-friendly scenes. No movies with Brad Pitt or Richard Gere can release in China because they were previously in movies that were critical of China. And there were rumors that the first Doctor Strange movie cast Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One instead of the character's Tibetan comic origin in order to appease China, which has a complicated political relationship with Tibet. And in this case, ghosts and the supernatural are also kind of tricky subjects for China. Like the horror film Crimson Peak was barred from Chinese release, apparently because it featured ghosts. Though Chinese filmmakers have pointed out that positive depictions of spirits and ghosts would probably be okay, but that in Chinese culture, according to them, negative and demonic entities have been associated with corrupt government officials. So perhaps all of this sheds light on Derrickson's original plan for the Multiverse of Madness and why he parted ways with Marvel. The most speculated villains that Derrickson had brought up have been figures like Nightmare and Mephisto, who are straight up demons in the Marvel world. Nightmare comes from the dream dimension. Their existence brings up the existence of Marvel Hell. Derrickson's Multiverse of Madness could have looked something like Mandy or Event Horizon, with the Sorcerer Supreme without the Time Stone, super vulnerable to protect this dimension from evil, ghostly entities. And then the hands groping Stephen Strange in the multiverse are revealed to be those of serial killers from the bottom ring of hell. Your kids are screaming, but you know you love it. Really, the further horror Derrickson wanted to go, maybe the more he would risk depriving Marvel's big May 2021 tentpole release from hundreds of millions in China. Essentially, if Disney as a studio wants to continue reigning supreme in the box office cash so they can afford their big Fox buyout and maybe someday buying out Sony's Spider-Man properties, none of their movies can ever go to hell. Now, it is worth noting, back in September, Derrickson retweeted an animated GIF of Walt Disney's 1929 short Hell's Bells depicting Satan and his demons gathering gathering for a wild party. Cerberus is there, it's lit. And you can imagine goth filmmakers pining for an era when Disney wasn't so limited on the hellish depths it could explore. That, plus disputes over rewrites, plus Marvel's strict release schedule deadline, might have just made this project too untenable for Derrickson. And now, instead of WandaVision being tied to a horror project like Multiverse of Madness, I think we may now be looking at a connection to the New Mutants, which has softer PG-13 horror, and now maybe a post-credit scene that links it with the MCU. Meanwhile, Feige hinted at a new direction for Multiverse of Madness, and not just to shift its horror elements from Lovecraft to Amblin, but also in general to emphasize the multiverse over the madness.
The next Doctor Strange film, for instance, features some new MCU characters that will be making their debut in that movie that you won't expect or won't guess who it is, but we found a cool way to make it work because we needed a particular, we will want to make a particular type of movie there, and there was a character we always wanted to do something with who we think will fit really well there.
Unexpected new MCU characters. Sounds to me that Multiverse of Madness will be less of a journey into hell than a journey into the new, brighter MCU multiverse to introduce figures maybe like Reed Richards or the Mutants. I don't know, who do you think this new character will be? And what director do you want to replace Scott Derrickson for Multiverse of Madness? Should we stick with horror directors good at nerdy adaptation like Guillermo del Toro or Peter Jackson, Sam Raimi, James Wan? Or should they really turn the page? Comment down below with your thoughts on this. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erik Voss. Follow New Rockstars on social media and subscribe to New Rockstars for explanations of all the biggest mysteries of the multiverse. Also, be sure to check out our new Q&A series, The Big Question, in which Philip and I give you too much information about how freaky these Marvel characters are when you think about them in the real world, like how Captain America will one day bury us all. Thank you for joining me. Bye.